What is going on, Star Wars fans? Welcome to my official Rogue One, a Star Wars story movie review, the first Star Wars movie to be added onto the anthology. And of course, guys, this video will contain massive amounts of spoilers. This film I was particularly very excited for because this was going to be the first ever side story being showcased on the big screen. Directed, of course, by none other than Gareth Edwards, the same man who directed the 2014 Godzilla movie. Produced by Kathleen Kennedy, this film was surely the exact movie you needed to go ahead and close out 2016. From the visuals to the acting to the story itself, this movie, I believe, delivered in every single aspect except for one. Of course, giving props to Felicity Jones, Diego Luna, Donnie Yen, all of the characters that were portrayed in this film, essentially, because towards the very end, it was very, very sad to see the way everything came to a close. And as I said earlier, this will contain massive amounts of spoilers. So towards the very end, guys, each and every single character introduced in the beginning dies. Surprise, surprise, right? But not to many, because we already knew this going into the film, that there was no way any of these characters were going to survive, given the idea that this takes place in between the original Star Wars films. And the one gripe I have about this film is Darth Vader, because towards the very end, we see how Darth Vader, he emerges from the darkness against the Rebel fleet, and he just begins to annihilate them with the lightsaber. He uses the Force against them, and through the chaos, it was so rewarding to see Darth Vader finally on the big screen, doing what he does best, and that's destroy, but he simply didn't have enough time on the big screen. Now, I love the way we have the portrayal of Jyn, having to avenge her mom, having to avenge her dad, who is an Imperial scientist working to construct the Death Star, but in fact, he was the one that put a flaw within the Death Star, and he wanted to relay a transmission via a pilot to inform the galaxy that the Empire is building this massive planetary destroyer, and they need to relay the message out. And the overall story between Jyn and her father, and having to find Galen, which is her dad, the scientist, and having to discover that he died right before, her very eyes, in her arms, actually. And it was the first time that she has seen him in over 15 years. I mean, this story was very, very good. I just wish, and I really hope that down the line, they create more movies for the anthology, because this really touched up on the lore of Star Wars a bit, and it was really rewarding to see the Death Star in action. We saw the Death Star actually wipe out Jeddah, which was a Jeddah city, and we see the Death Star eliminate one of the other cities towards the very end, which actually turns out to be an Imperial city in and of itself. So we see how powerful the Death Star is. And in terms of the characters, I mean, every single character in this film just was amazing. I think from Saw Gerrera to just like every single character you can relate to. For me personally, I truly enjoyed K2SO. He was the comedic relief, and it was actually funny to see how sarcastic he was and how much of an asshole he was, especially towards Jyn, because in the beginning we see how Jyn was, she had a weapon, and then K2 is like, well, I don't really authorize that she has a weapon because she can use it against us, and he was being such a sarcastic asshole. And then when she was being sarcastic to him, he would reply with such the smarky ass comments. Like, it was just great to see the way K2 was showcased in this film. Unfortunately enough, K2 also died, so I really hope that down the line they were to incorporate another character similar to K2, because he was the comedic relief of this entire movie. He made us laugh, even towards the very end, right before he passed away, with the stormtroopers busting into the lobby and trying to gun him down before relaying the transmission. We see how, he sacrificed himself to ensure that the message goes out that yes, indeed, the Death Star has a weakness. So from beginning to end, I sat there and I was mesmerized by what I was seeing. Again, the only short side to this movie is the fact that Vader isn't shown as much as he was advertised in commercials, and of course the character buildup isn't really all there. And what I mean by that is, if you want to compare The Force Awakens to this particular film, I would have to say that The Force Awakens establishes character buildup more than this movie. In this movie, I would have to say the primary buildup was with Jyn, but even with Jyn, you still don't get that satisfaction as you did with Rey, Finn, Poe Dameron, even Kylo Ren. So I would have to say, in comparison to The Force Awakens and Star Wars Rogue One, I would have to say The Force Awakens did a much better job in capitalizing on character buildup and character utilization. In this film, we get our characters, we can relate to them, we can see how they are, but I would have to say the emotional connection isn't all entirely there. I would have to say that's more along the lines of The Force Awakens, because we can connect with Rey a lot more, we can connect with Finn, we can even connect with Kylo Ren. In this film, to me at least, I wasn't able to connect to not many characters except for probably Jin and you know, Saul Guerrera, and you know, even Vader. When he showed up, it was such a nostalgic feeling because when he showed up, we see how he was talking to one of the generals and he was choking him out and stuff. It was just great. I can't even put into words on how awesome this film was. Now again, as awesome as it was, it still had minor flaws. I'm not going to sit here and nitpick the flaws. Although, I mean, they're very minor, they still managed to tell a great story, and they still managed to captivate, especially towards the very end when we see the two Star Killers collide and they're going down into the Imperial planet. Like, it was just madness. And towards the very end, we see the last of Vader's face as he's witnessing these, you know, Rebel Alliance members just flee away with the information that the Death Star does have a weakness. And we get to see right then and there that, you know, and even Princess Leia made an appearance. That was something that a lot of people were saying it was creepy because she looked just as she did in the original Star Wars films. And it was very creepy looking, but it was still a nostalgic feeling to see how she was talking about hope, you know, a Star Wars, A New Hope and stuff. It was just great. This film I would definitely recommend to anyone out there who wants to see a great movie, a great story. If you guys are like huge fans of Vader, you're going to get your satisfaction. However, you're still going to be a little disappointed with how they showcase him because, again, he was only there for about maybe 2 acts of the film. He was only there for 2 scenes. That when he was talking to one of the general leaders, and the finale when he was pretty much cutting everyone in half, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And I do think that, especially when he was talking to Krennic, when Krennic went to go visit him, and I will say that Vader's palace was so awesome because we never really knew, you know, where Vader presided. We didn't really know like where he lived, I guess you could say, and having to go and dive into that realm of like, you know, believability to see where he resides. And we saw how when Krennic was talking to him, you know, Vader was very upset and he was choking him out, and he was like, heed your words carefully, you know, because Krennic asked him, am I still in charge? And Vader kind of took that as disrespect. You never talk back to Vader. But the entire film as a whole, guys, I would have to say is very, 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 very solid. Top-notch CGI, top-notch performances. But the only thing that didn't really stick to me, I would have to say, would be the character relations. Again, the characters were very, very, very forgettable towards the very end. And especially when, you know, Donnie Yen's character died, when we saw all the characters die individually, it was a very sad moment. And the thing that I really thought about was how come Jin wasn't able to escape. You get what I'm saying? Even though the blast radius in which one of the Death Stars shot the city at was pretty close, I still felt as if they could have escaped because the Death Star in this film didn't really destroy any planets, but instead it was destroying cities. And the city that Jin was actually near was one of the main places where he got hit. But of course, I thought that personally they could have easily gotten into some ship and just taken off from there if they knew how to fly. If not, of course, when they were screwed. But we saw how each and every single individual character died off. It was very sad. So I would have to say this movie was props up from top to bottom. I really, really, really liked K2SO. He was such a great character. I mean, he was an Imperial droid reprogrammed by the rebels, and to see how he had a bunch of snarky comments to say and how he was always sarcastic and he was an asshole, but, you know, he still gave his life up to protect you know, Jin from getting the documents to that, and essentially the data needed to transfer on over to the rebels about the Death Star plans. And nobody believed, you know, our heroes when they were talking about like this Death Star, especially when with the message being relayed and stuff. But seeing everything culminate towards the very end made sense, and we see how the rebels began to take action in stealing the plans and destroying the Death Star, which leads into the original films. But Vader was such a badass. I think honestly Vader stole the show, because as Vader entered the room, you know, we see a bunch of, you know, rebels there, and through the darkness you hear Vader breathing, and then all of a sudden you see like this lightsaber, you know, begin to just emit, and it's Vader, and he comes out the darkness and he's beginning to slash and decapitate people. He's using the Force to, you know, force choke people. He's throwing people around. It was an incredible scene. It lasted about, I would have to say, 3 to 5 minutes, but that 3 to 5 minute duration mark was amazing, because that's what every single Darth Vader fan has been waiting for literally decades now, to see Darth Vader become a badass, to see Darth Vader, you know, step into the limelight and showcase his brutality. And we saw how brutal he was, because there was not one rebel who survived. And we saw how Darth Vader, although he is clunky and slow, he was moving through the corridors, corridors. He was moving through the hallways. He was destroying every single rebel that came about him. We saw how the rebels were shooting him down, and they were trying to gun him down, but Vader deflected everything. Vader blocked everything, and I thought it was really cool, especially during this one part where Vader was holding someone against the ceiling with the Force, and then he was hacking someone else with the lightsaber. It was incredible. It just shows, how intense Darth Vader can be when it comes to, being a part of action, being a part of, an intense combat situation where he was actually fighting not just one, but multiple rebels. It was that awesome to see. So for me personally, Darth Vader definitely stole the show, and it was really cool to see Darth Vader inside of like this liquid chamber when Krennic got there, because when Krennic got there, we saw how the general leader informed Vader that Krennic had arrived, and we see how, the liquid began to cool down and Vader began to put on his stuff, and, we see Vader essentially, make his first debut in the film when he's talking to Krennic, and it gave me such a nostalgic feeling because I love Vader a lot. Although he's not typically my favorite Sith amongst all of the Sith in Star Wars lore, he's definitely one of my top 5. So having to see him there and having to see him talk to Krennic and the way he was choking him and stuff, it was great to see. He definitely stole the show. In terms of performance, I would also have to say, for me, at least personally, I do think that Jyn, Felicity, definitely stole the show. She was believable. She didn't give you any signs of fatigue as a character. She made you believe that this was a larger-than-life situation. You had to get it done before, the Imperials and the Empire found you. So it was a great moment nonetheless, guys. I want to know your thoughts down below on Vader, on the overall storytelling, the story cast development, and what are your overall expectations and thoughts going forward into the future of Star Wars, guys. Thank you all for watching. Once again, if you guys enjoyed the review, make sure to slap a like down below. Leave your thoughts down below as to what you guys thought. If you guys are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Tune in for more, and I'll be seeing each and every single one of you guys in the next review. Take it easy, everybody. Peace.